Welcome back to the Friendship Bread Podcast. I'm Alma, and I'm here with Crystal. We love to have real, honest, and raw conversations about life and everything that goes with it. And just like in any good friendship, nothing is off limits.
So last week we talked a lot about boundaries and just what healthy boundaries look like. And we mentioned here and there toxic people. And after the fact, we realized we kind of assumed that all of you knew what toxic people are, and that we really hadn't talked about that aspect of it or defined it in case you didn't know.
Yeah, or how to look.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, how to look for toxic people or signs that a person is toxic.
Yes.
So we actually had a whole post on our Instagram last week about what are red flags and things that you should be looking for specifically in friendship. And these can be good indicators of what you should be watching for if you're watching out for red flags and when to know if somebody is being toxic or not. So some of the things that we said are like if they make you feel inadequate and not good enough whenever you spend time with them, they never apologize, or they never acknowledge your successes. If you feel the need to walk on eggshells around them.
Yes.
Now, even if you have one of those red flags, that doesn't necessarily mean that person is toxic.
Yes, I think that's a really important point.
Yeah. So, because toxic behaviors, they don't always mean that the people themselves are toxic.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people don't realize what they're doing.
Yep.
And unfortunately, sometimes they do. But the whole point is that if there's something that's happening that's making you feel uncomfortable or violated or whatever else, really, anything that you feel like you need to address, if you bring those things up with those people and say, hey, like, when you made fun of me the other day when I accidentally mispronounced something, and it really made me feel like you thought I wasn't very smart. You know, and they're like, oh, I think you're just reading too much into that.
Yeah. I think that that's a really good point, and also context is key.
Yeah.
Because if they are making a joke and if you're laughing with them, along with them, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But if it's a constant behavior and they're always belittling you, that's a whole other situation.
Yeah, and then when you say, hey, you're always belittling me, and they're like, no, I'm not, or I think you're making too big of a deal out of it, or whatever else, if they're saying, no, I am not going to change, that is toxic behavior. And if there's a lot of those things that happen with that person is probably toxic.
Yeah. I think that a really good kind of, it's not a one-fits-all statement, but maybe a really good way to measure it is if someone is making an effort to change their behavior and making an effort to grow, that is totally different than being presented with their behavior and being in denial about their behavior and how it's hurting others, and completely ignoring it and refusing to believe that they need to change it all.
Yeah, because if, like, same scenario, if that's something they were doing repeatedly, and you say something to them about it, and they're like, oh my gosh, you're right, I was belittling you, and I know that that does not make you feel good, and I am so sorry, I'm gonna work harder on not doing that in the future, and please tell me if it happens again.
Yeah.
Like, that is maybe a sign of a person who is not toxic, who has a toxic behavior, but they're showing an effort to change and a willingness to learn and do better.
Yeah, and I think that example really shows why not canceling, air quotes, canceling people or playing into cancel culture is so important. Because we can't just cancel someone, cut them off, make them obsolete because of one behavior.
Yeah. Like, and I know we said this in our last episode too, but I just want to, like, reiterate. Sometimes there are circumstances where you do have to completely cut contact with someone. And that is okay. If that's what needs to happen, it's okay. And you shouldn't feel guilty for having to do that.
No.
Because that's not your fault. It's
Yeah.
really not. But sometimes we can also kind of jump the gun and go to completely cutting somebody out of your life when it really didn't need to go that far.
Yeah, I completely agree. And cancel culture doesn't leave room for growth. It doesn't leave room for the fact that people can change.
Yeah, cancel culture is really one-sided when it's more of like a two-sided situation.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about in the however many episodes that we've done how much we can change and how often we can tell ourselves your life's not going to look the same in a year. And we've talked about what you can do to change your life. And I think that's really important to remember that when we're looking at other people, their journey through life is not our journey. And so if they're struggling with a certain aspect that we aren't currently struggling with, that's okay. We don't have to hold those people super close to us during those times.
Yeah.
If it's difficult for us to be around them, then that's okay. We don't have to, we can love them, we can be kind to them, but we don't need to be constantly surrounding ourselves with them.
Yeah, we don't have to allow their influence in our lives.
Yes. Yeah. Very well said, yes. But we can always leave the door open. They can know that we love them unconditionally, and they are welcome in our lives, but that behavior that they're displaying that is harmful is not welcome.
Yeah. I think one good example we could give is, let's say you have a relative, a family member who has always made comments about your body in a negative light. So, like, oh, I see you've gained some weight, or that's really fitting you tight, or are you planning on going on a diet? Like, okay, I don't know. Whatever they say. If they're always making those comments and then you are like, hey, I really don't like when you make those comments.
Yeah.
And they're like, I think you're just being too sensitive. So you decide, I need a little bit of distance and time and space. And you tell them, I really don't think I'm being too sensitive, and I think you're being insensitive. And I'm going to need some time and space from you and the attitude that you have. And if you decide to have a change of attitude and not talk to me that way, I would love to have you back in my life. And then let's say 5, 10, however many years down the road, you get a phone call and it's that family member and they're like, it's taken me a long time, but I realized I was being insensitive. Like, that's a great thing. Yeah. That means the boundary was actually effective.
Yeah, I think you're right.
You're worth no matter how long it takes.
Yes.
I think that's something a lot of us struggle with too when it comes to boundaries and knowing if people are toxic and knowing whether we should set this boundary or that or not. It's like so much of it comes down to our worth.
Yeah. Yeah, we talked about that a lot in our last episode, and I've just been thinking about it more, and it's amazing what all comes back to our worth.
So much. Like how we perceive ourselves, how we think others perceive ourselves, how we even handle ourselves, how we portray ourselves, the thoughts we think about ourselves. Yeah.
And I think we touched on this in our last episode. When we value ourselves and we believe good things about our own worth, we can value other people so much better. Yeah. And I think one thing that I've really struggled with in the past is that in certain settings, if I normally respect a lot of things that a certain person says, and I take a lot of their advice, if one day all of a sudden I notice an aspect of their life that I completely disagree with, and I feel like they are handling a situation totally wrong, maybe they're mistreating someone, it's very easy for me to kind of just disregard everything I've ever learned from them. Yeah. And I think it is important to have boundaries of what you put in your head and who you listen to.
Oh, yeah, for
and
sure.
I think it's very important to have good influences. But I think there is a certain aspect of respecting and valuing each person's individual experience and realizing that everyone has something good to contribute. Even if it's 1% of what they say, and the other 99% is not great.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, in all reality, is that an influence you want in your life? No, probably not.
Yeah. But yeah, I know what you mean, though. It doesn't mean that we just throw out every single thing that ever comes out of that person's mouth. Do we throw out most of it? Yes.
Yeah, we weigh it. Yeah. We weigh it, but we don't just throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yes, we take it with a grain of salt.
Yes.
Are there any other, cliche...
I'm not sure. Those are the two I know.
Throw in?
Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Take it with a grain of salt. Weigh it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's not a really fun expression, but yeah, I think that's really important, and it's not, you don't want to take away from the respect and value that they have for just being a human being, because we value ourselves for just being a human being.
Right. And I mean, this is our 6th episode. By now, chances are pretty high that we have said something that somebody doesn't agree with. Mm-hmm. Does that mean that we don't have anything good to say that could be helpful to them? No. Does it mean they're going to like everything we say going forward? Maybe not. But, I mean, it's just like there's so many people. I know both you and I have had this circumstance where there's someone we follow on social media and we like 90% of their content, but maybe the other 10% were like, yeah, I could do without that. But does that mean that they don't have anything good to say? No.
Yeah, I think it's really important to see what we have in common with people, and to value them as a human being, value their opinions. We don't have to agree with everyone to love them. And to go back to what I said earlier about cancel culture, I think that just puts it in, that wraps it up really well. There's no need to cancel someone, and it's very harmful, because it's taking away, it's saying that what they have to say is not valuable at all.
Yeah.
And if they're not forgivable for the things that they did wrong, why are we forgivable for the things that we did wrong?
Oh, that's such a good point. Truth bomb. I think that canceling people really leaves no grace. There's no grace.
Yeah.
And we talk all the time about having grace for ourselves, but what about having grace for other people too?
Yeah, exactly.
And having grace for other people does not mean letting them walk all over you.
Yes, kind of tying that back into why we started talking about all of this.
Yeah. I think so often in the communities we grew up in, maybe nobody ever said specifically if you don't let someone walk all over you, you're not having grace for them. But that's often the feeling that a lot of us grow up with.
Yeah.
Is that if we tell somebody, hey, this is our boundary, we're being selfish, and also I'm supposed to understand that they're acting this way maybe because they have their own trauma. I have to have grace for them. Yeah, to an extent, but not to letting them walk all over you.
Yeah, hurt people.
Yes, exactly.
So if we can stop the cycle and we can say, no, I will not let you hurt me.
Yeah.
We can still view this and say, I am aware of your trauma, and I respect that, and I'm very sorry. But we don't have to allow it to hurt us.
Yes. I know as a mom, one of my goals is that, we all have trauma in our lives, so I know that saying that my goal is for my kids to have 0 trauma, 0 is that realistic?
I don't think so, because we can't control everything that happens to our kids, and we can't protect them from everything.
Right. But, so my goal is maybe not so that they have 0 trauma, because I know that's not realistic, but that they know how to set boundaries and how to have grace for people, and also to recognize when having grace for someone has crossed the line to letting them walk over you.
Yes. I think that's a really good goal.
Because that's often not something that we're taught.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. How to recognize when your boundaries are being crossed is a very important life skill.
Yeah, I know I've said it before, but I really don't want anyone to listen to this and think that we're saying, oh, like, let people walk all over you.
Yeah.
Because our whole point of our podcast, our whole goal is to talk about things that are not very often talked about in our culture.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things. One of the things is that we have this idea that we need to let people walk all over us in order to be having grace for them, or in order to be kind and loving. You can be kind and loving.
And helpful.
And helpful. And still have boundaries and still have grace for people. Like, I think there are ideas that are, like, presented as being, like, exclusive. Like, you can only have boundaries or only have grace for someone.
Yeah.
And, like, that's not true.
No, it's
you
not
can
true
have
at all.
boundaries with someone and have grace for them at the same time.
Mm-hmm. You don't have to, it's not that you don't love them if you put up boundaries.
Yes. Yeah. And sometimes putting up your boundaries can be the best thing for them.
Absolutely.
It doesn't always work that way, but sometimes boundaries are the thing that awakens people to their own toxic behaviors.
Yeah, even if it takes a while. I
Mm-hmm.
think that if someone is really paying attention and they want to change,
Mm-hmm.
having someone else put up a boundary
Mm-hmm.
can really wake them up. Say,
Yeah.
oh, wow. Am I treating other people like this?
Mm-hmm.
Have I been walking all over other people?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think what you said earlier about that, really we're trying to focus on things that we don't talk about
Mm-hmm.
in our culture.
Yeah.
And, so the focus here is that it's important to value yourself. And out of that value comes boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And boundaries help you have healthier relationships with the people in your life.
Yeah.
And so I think that's more of our focus, because it's been hammered into our heads since we were little how to be kind to people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that message was probably a little skewed.
Yeah.
So
I think it's also, it's not just to be kind to people, because it's also colored by what do people think about you.
oh my goodness. Yeah, no, I missed the whole point. Yes. You're absolutely right.
It's such a big deal.
We value so much other people's opinions about us,
Mm-hmm.
and whether we will be seen as a good person by them.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true. We do. And we're taught that from little kids, because it's a thing of, like, I mean, like, you have memories from when you're a little kid and you go somewhere and you do something you're not supposed to do, and somebody says, don't do that, like, people are watching, or what will people think, or, like, you should be embarrassed because people are watching you. And
yeah, we don't do that in stores.
Yeah, exactly. And I know it's a thing of, like, yeah, you can teach your kids proper behavior.
And manners.
And manners, for sure. For sure. We're not saying that. But, like, I think what we're saying is there's different words to be used.
Yeah.
And I know that our parents, I mean, they were just using the words that probably their parents used. You know?
Yeah.
It's a passed down generational behavior.
Yes. With that, parents all do the best that they can do. And they do best with what's given to them and the tools that have been handed down to them.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I think that is a very good point. It doesn't matter. Even if you do a really silly, embarrassing thing, it doesn't matter what people think of you.
Yeah.
And when we put so much focus on that, that's very damaging.
Yeah, and then our worth gets tied up in what people think of you.
Yeah. I have definitely very much struggled with that all my life.
Oh, yeah, me too.
And I'm, in the past few years, I'm slowly starting to, like, detach my worth from other people's opinions. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean that it isn't hard.
Yeah,
it's an ongoing process.
Yeah, it's such a journey.
Yeah.
And it's a step at a time, and it's this and that. I mean, I feel like I myself have also made progress in this area. Is it perfect? No. Because sometimes I still catch myself, about to go out the door to go somewhere, be it a family gathering or something with friends or whatever it is that I'm doing. And like when I look at myself in the mirror, sometimes I catch myself being like, oh, like, will they like this shirt? Or are they going to think this makes my arms look fat? Or are they going to think that this color is too loud? Or whatever. Like, those kinds of thoughts go through your head.
Mm-hmm.
And really, that shouldn't even be a consideration.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's hard, repetitive work, but it is worth it. And it gets easier.
It does. It really does.
Like, the other day, I haven't rollerbladed since I was a kid. And Tanner bought me rollerblades.
Oh, yeah, you told me
And I was, like, super excited. Because I remember rollerblading being super fun when I was a kid.
Right.
Let me tell you, when it's been 15 years since you have rollerbladed, it is not like riding a bike.
It's not?
No.
Okay, well then, it's been a while. It's probably been 15 years since I've rollerbladed too, so I think I will be avoiding it then. That's what you're saying, right? I
told Tanner, like, no, don't avoid it. This is not the point of where I'm going. But
I thought you were saying, Crystal, I do not want you to rollerblade with me.
No! Come rollerblade with me. So after
I'm bringing a stroller.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah. Hey, if you are local and you see Crystal and Alma rollerblading somewhere with children and strollers, I mean, we may have just taken the kids along because we needed the stability. I don't know.
Honestly, that's a really great idea.
Actually, the kids would love it.
They would love it, yes. Yeah, so he bought me rollerblades, and I was super excited, and after the first session, I was like, no, we have to take them back, we have to return these. Like, I could not stay upright, and he was catching me. Thank God he, like, didn't leave me. I would have broken so many bones, I swear. But, so after the first session, I said, no, we're returning them. Like, I can maybe get roller skates, where there's two, like, you don't have to balance on the one row of...
Okay, I don't know why, but as a kid, roller skates always scared me more than rollerblades.
What?
I don't know.
Interesting.
I didn't say it was logic. I just said, as a kid, it scared me.
That's funny. Roller skates were always easier for me, but I don't know. Maybe I used them more. I'm not sure. But Tanner's response was not returning the skates. He was like, nope, you're buying a helmet. And he got me knee pads. And elbow pads, and I was like, no way am I wearing this outside to go rollerblading.
Oh, I see where you're going. Okay.
To have all the people watch this 25-year-old woman learn how to rollerblade all over again. And then I had to check myself, and I was like, wow, why is that such a bad idea? Why does that idea cause so much, like, embarrassment for you?
Yeah.
And, so I was like, no, like, and I put myself in the situation, if I was watching a woman my age learning how to rollerblade with her husband, boyfriend there helping her, I'd be like, oh my gosh, that's so cute. Look, she's learning how to rollerblade. Why can't I be like that for myself?
Yes, I think we often do that. That's actually a really good tip. Like, if you're having a lot of struggles with, like, always thinking about what other people think about you, think about how you would feel if the situation was reversed.
Yeah.
And you were seeing someone doing that, whatever it is. I'm trying to think of a good example, and I am having none.
Yeah.
I mean, you just gave one, so I don't know why I'm thinking I have to think of an example.
Okay. But yeah, so we went rollerblading the other day. I had my helmet on. I felt like a 5-year-old, but helmets are actually very important.
Yes.
And so I had my helmet on, I had my knee pads on. Tanner was there, so I didn't put my elbow pads on, but I feel like if Tanner wouldn't have been there, I think I would have worn elbow pads, because it is a little terrifying to think of, like, landing on my elbows, and yeah. But
I think I would need a face pad.
Well, the helmet usually sticks out a little ways. But, yeah,
okay, maybe I need, like, a chin and nose pad.
Yeah.
And also a butt pad.
Oh my goodness. I actually said that to Tanner. I was like, I feel like more than anything, I'm going to land on my butt. So I need like a cushion there. But yeah, so we did it the other day. Mm-hmm. I'm going off on a lot of bunny trails, but we did it the other day and we made it like a half a mile down the sidewalk. And I had so much fun. And there was cars driving past us. And I was able to just completely stay in the moment and enjoy myself and not be embarrassed. And it was amazing because I got to have a ton of fun with Tanner. He caught me about 50 bajillion times. But by the end of it, I was staying upright longer between my fall downs.
Good job, Alma. And good job, Tanner.
Thank you. So yeah, it's repetitive. But at the end of the day, if we can let go of that fear of what other people think about us, it's very worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think sometimes, too, like, we'll worry about something, and then afterwards, it's like, oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Or, like, we're like, oh, I didn't even worry about that, like, while the situation was going on. Like, it was just fine, and I worried about it for nothing.
Yeah. I think another good example is how we're often our very worst critics. And
oh, yeah.
I'll look at, like, if I make an invitation for a Christmas party, I'll look at it and it'll be like, oh, it's a little wonky and this is off here and that's off there. Mm-hmm. And then I step away for 10 minutes and I come back and look at it and I'm like, oh, this is actually really nice.
Yeah, I know, I do that too. I mean, real talk, I'm always like, hey, Alma, does this look okay before I post this?
Yeah.
You know, like...
Well, yeah, I don't think it's bad to get someone else's opinion to validate that you think it looks good.
Right,
but I think someone else to agree.
I think sometimes, if I'm being honest with myself, I'm...
So am I going to have to start asking you more often, like, well, what do you think, Crystal? Do you like it?
Oh, gosh. I think it's I'm more like, oh, will other people like this? Or am I just crazy? Like, is what I like just so far off? Like... Is this going to appeal to people? You know what I mean?
Like, almost back to the needing to fit in when you're a kid or something.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense. Is my taste of music the same? Do I have a weird taste? Do I have a weird sense of fashion?
You do not have a weird sense of fashion. Your sense of fashion is great.
Thanks.
You may have a little bit of weird taste in music, but, like, I think overall it's pretty cool.
Thank you, Crystal. She's probably referring to that I enjoy listening to Justin Bieber.
Yeah. That was exactly what I was referring to.
I mean, I could mention that you know every single song by Kane Brown.
Yeah, but what's wrong with that?
What's wrong with Justin Bieber?
Okay, I think it's just like, to me, okay, I think maybe this is where the slight age difference comes into play. Because when Justin Bieber was just, like, super popular, I was just older enough to be like, all of those girls screaming his name...
Okay, yeah.
...are just a little ridiculous.
Honestly,
and then I just kind of had this, like, Justin Bieber version. I will say, okay, you have convinced me that a couple of his songs are okay. Not all, but a couple. I'll give you that.
And it's not like I don't like Kane Brown. I think he has a great voice.
Yeah, you're right. He does.
But yeah, I think often we do worry, even with insignificant things like that, whether we fit in. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, if you like it, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. If it makes you happy, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. If you are not hurting someone, I think you're going to be just fine.
Yeah. I'm going to have to remind myself of that when I, like, do my hair and I'm like, ooh, is this going to be okay? Listen, Crystal, your hair is not hurting anybody. It's fine. It's not hurting anybody. It's fine.
That's really funny.
Going along with the whole what people think about us thing, we also have this perception of, like, that goes really far into our lives. It even applies to our mental health. And thinking, like, oh, if I'm depressed or I'm dealing with anxiety, I cannot let that show. Because what are people going to think about me? There's this whole, I don't know, maybe not. Maybe this isn't true for everyone, but I feel like in how I grew up, there was from somewhere, I don't remember anyone specifically saying this, but there was this perception that if you have any sort of mental health, anything going on, then you're, quote, crazy.
I see what you're saying.
And so there's this like, oh, I can't admit that I'm feeling depressed. I can't admit that I'm feeling anxious because what are people going to think about me? What are people going to see me as?
Often we can put up really good fronts. And sometimes I think we even question for ourselves, I have such a good life. Why do I have these feelings? And so if you feel that way about yourself, you're like thinking, well, somebody else is going to have the same thoughts about me. Oh, she has such a good life. Why would she feel that way? She's not depressed. She has such a great life. She should be so happy.
Yeah, exactly. And we really doubt ourselves. I think also there's this like whole... So using depression as an example, depression is often really viewed as only one thing. Like a lot of people think depression means that you can't get out of bed ever in the morning, or it means that you just don't want to do anything. Or they think it means you're lazy. That's another thing sometimes. But like the reality is that depression, just like many other things, has lots of different forms and presents in different ways and
affects people differently.
Yes. But like if you think about it, it's sad that so many of us grew up with this perception. And I know it's not true for everyone, but I feel like it is for a lot of us. A lot of the people that I, have talked to that grew up in our kind of a culture, it is seen as a taboo topic. So it's taboo. It's not okay for us to make sure that we are okay.
Yeah. And just really quick for reference, we'll jump right back into this. If you haven't listened to our very first episode, our culture, when we're referring to our culture, we were Amish till a certain point in our lives, and we grew up in very conservative, coming out of the Amish childhoods.
Yeah, like, so, and still, like, the communities we live in are still very conservative.
Yes.
Amish and Mennonite, and so that's just kind of, we're
surrounded by a lot of people who grew up in the same culture as us. So when we say that culture, that's what we're speaking of.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I completely agree. We've touched on this before. It is not prioritized to make sure that we're okay. I think that especially women are kind of, maybe they're never blatantly told this. The message is like, well, you just keep going. You just keep moving forward. You don't deal with it. It'll get ironed out.
Yeah. And I mean, okay, I know this analogy is used a lot, but when the oxygen masks come down from the ceiling, you don't put others' oxygen masks on. You put your own on. So how are we as women, who a lot of us are mothers, this can apply to so many different scenarios. It can be you relating to a friend or your children or your spouse or your family, however. But if you don't put your own oxygen mask on first, you can't help anyone else.
No, you're going to pass out while you're putting your kid's oxygen mask on.
Yeah. So if you are like, oh, I can't prioritize my mental health because, my friends come to me for advice, and if I tell them that I'm going somewhere for counseling or whatever it is that you're doing to help, like, just we're going to use counseling in this scenario, they're going to think that I can't give them advice anymore, and they're going to think I'm not qualified to give them advice.
Yeah.
But the reality is, if you are stuck in your own things, how are you going to help anyone else?
Yes. I think it's a really good example. With mental health and everything we know about mental health and knowing how much it affects every other function and system in our body.
Mm-hmm.
I think it also really reiterates how important, how damaging it can be to grow up always caring about what other people think about us. And every action, when people come over to your house, your family puts on like a different, they put on different faces and they use different behaviors than when they're just by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're afraid to be vulnerable with other people because we're afraid of how they feel about us, it takes away everything. And going right back to that C.S. Lewis quote where he talks about that when someone else says, "What? You too?"
Mm-hmm.
It takes those shared experiences to help us feel healthy and connected to other human beings, because how connected really are we if we are totally different to people's faces than we are behind closed doors?
Mm-hmm. I think it really goes back to, if you hold on to those beliefs of other people's opinions mattering so much,
mm-hmm.
number one, you're not going to be authentic.
No.
And if you want to be authentic, that is something you have got to toss right into the trash can.
Yeah.
Because you can't be authentic while being driven by the fears of other people's opinions. And when your worth is being determined by what other people's opinions are.
Mm-hmm.
So being authentic really means not caring about other people's opinions.
Yeah.
And just being true to yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that comes in layers. It takes time to deconstruct the beliefs that we grew up believing.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes time to peel off those layers. I feel like we repeat that a lot, that things take time.
I know.
It's true.
It is. It's so true. I think that's why we say it so much.
Yeah.
There's some things that are just incredibly true. Like, it takes time. It takes hard work.
Mm-hmm.
It takes so much effort. But that it's all worth it.
Yes. Yeah. It is worth it to become the healthiest version of you that you can be.
Mm-hmm.
And the most authentic version of you that you can be.
Yeah.
And I think I've said it before, but when we're authentic and we're real with people, then they can feel like they can be real and authentic with us, and they don't have to worry about
mm-hmm.
our opinions about
mm-hmm.
them.
Yeah.
Honestly, this sounds really cheesy because people say it all the time. Be the change you want to see in the world. If you want people to be able to be more authentic,
mm-hmm.
if you want to be able to be more authentic, be more authentic. You have to start doing it. You make the people around you more comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And they make the people around them feel more comfortable with being authentic.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly why we're doing this. There was change we wanted to see. We wanted to see people having these conversations. Here we are, having
mm-hmm.
conversations. And I really hope that for those of you listening, that these are conversations that, you want us to be having, or that you think people should be having, because we know not everybody has grown up in the same way we have, and we really do want to be helpful.
Yeah.
To everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, seriously, if anyone has anything to say, and you want to be, part of the conversation, shoot us a message, let us know, because we really would love to hear from you guys as to, what are the hard topics in your lives, and what are the important things to you.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about us.
Yeah. And we do realize that sometimes it has to start just by hearing someone else.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure.
And hearing the messages repeated before we're willing to take our own steps, have
mm-hmm.
our own conversations. But yeah, we would love, like Crystal said, to hear more of what's on your guys' minds and what conversations you want to be having. Because everyone's, like she said, life experience is different.
Yeah. And also, if at this point in the episode you're not convinced that it's important for you to have boundaries and to not care what other people think and to know that you are worth something, if you're still having a hard time with thinking of doing some of those things for you, think about it like, would you want your children to do that? Would you want your family members to do that? Would you want your spouse to do that? Would you want them to put themselves first? Or would you want them to prioritize what everyone else thinks first?
Yeah.
And sometimes when we reframe the things like that,
it makes a big difference.
It does. It makes so much more sense. And the things that felt selfish suddenly feel a whole lot less selfish.
Mm-hmm. For some reason, it can be very easy to say, I'm so glad you're doing that. I'm so glad you're taking care of yourself to someone else. And then when it comes to ourselves, for some reason it's harder when it's us that are taking a break. It's harder when it's us that are prioritizing ourselves and taking care of our own needs.
I feel like especially as women, maybe this isn't true for everyone, but I feel like for a lot of women we have a fear of like falling apart.
Yeah. And
I mean, really, we shouldn't be that afraid of falling apart because, I mean, tacos do and people still love them.
That's funny. Yeah. And honestly, if you're taking care of yourself and you're prioritizing what you need every day, it's going to be less likely that those things add up and you end up falling apart.
For sure. Yeah. Sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, if I start doing this, I'm going to end up falling apart.
Yeah. I know, like, just a small example. Like, if I'm working really hard on something, and I spend all day focused on it, and I forget to drink as much water as I should, and I'm just kind of snacking instead of making sure I get good protein, and I, woke up and started working right away and didn't really, have any time for myself in the morning. By the end of the day, I do not feel good, and I don't sleep well at night, and it's all those little things that added up, when it would have taken me, 15 minutes to stop and make sure I ate something, and filled a glass of water and had it next to me while I was working, and just kind of, took those steps to make sure that I was feeling okay, and kind of checked in with myself, how am I feeling, instead of just pushing through. And saying, no, I gotta get this done, I gotta get this done. So yeah, that's just a small example, but I feel like that can be applied to our mental health in general. And when we're taking care of our mental health, we can be way more present with the people around us, our families, and we can take better care of the people around us if we need to be taking care of them. Yeah, I think being present is a really big thing because, the other day with rollerblading, I was able to completely be present then once I let go of my fears, and it was the most fun I've had in a long time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm really glad you were able to do that.
Thanks. A lot of laughing. So much laughing.
Laughter is so good for you, though.
It is.
Bonus tip. If you are not laughing on the regular, find something funny to make you laugh.
Yes.
Because laughter has amazing benefits.
It really does.
And it's worth it.
Yeah. And it puts you, in a whole different mood. If I wake up grumpy and then I really, look for something to make me laugh, it changes my whole mood.
This is true. I think that happens for a lot of us.
Yep.
Sometimes it's even something that just makes us smile and not laugh.
Yeah.
For some people, it could be wrapping your hands around a nice warm cup of coffee or tea. It doesn't even necessarily just have to be laughter. I mean, yeah, still do the laughter because laughter is amazing. But, finding little things that make you happy.
Yes. Having a little, morning ritual that brings you joy. Pouring the hot, steamy cup of tea when it's freezing outside.
Yeah. So, speaking of freezing outside, how did the fire fall in love?
How did the fire fall in love? I don't know.
It found its perfect match.
Its perfect match.
Mm-hmm.
Aww. You know what I've been doing all week this week because it has felt so much like fall?
Wearing a cardigan.
That too, actually.
Because I've been doing that.
Yes.
Don't knock cardigans. They are life. Thank you.
They're amazing, yeah. No, I agree. I found a YouTube video that is like 12 hours of fireplace, like a fireplace burning.
Like
and
a flickering fireplace?
Yes, and it's like crackling, and I literally have that on all the time lately. And it like makes my living room feel so cozy because I don't have a real fireplace.
I am doing this like immediately. Okay, here's what we're gonna do, y'all. You said it's on YouTube?
Yeah.
We're gonna take this moment to give you guys a little shameless plug. We are on YouTube now. Some of our episodes are on YouTube.
As of today, not all of them, but I'm hoping by the time this episode airs, we're caught up with all the episodes we have recorded.
Okay, so if you like to have, if you like to use YouTube, we are on YouTube now. But also, I'm going to see if we can get that video that Alma is talking about, and we're going to put a little playlist on our channel.
Oh, that's a good idea.
And we'll put that in there because I know I want to use this, and probably some of you guys do too now. So you can find that on our YouTube in a playlist. I don't know what this playlist is going to be called, so I guess we're going to have to figure that out.
Yeah, but it will be there.
Yes, it will.
And it'll have all the cozy fall vibes, which I think I've talked to you about this. You know what hygge is.
Yeah, I've heard of hygge. Are you going to tell us a little bit about it?
Sure, I can. Hygge is like, number one, it is not spelled how it sounds.
No, it's not.
It's like, is it like Hygge?
It's something like that. It looks like it should be like Heige or something like that, and it's not. It's hygge.
Yes. Yeah, it blew my mind the first time I heard it pronounced correctly. But it is like the practice, like a Swedish-Danish practice of coziness and comfortableness that, like, to wrap it up, is a feeling of contentment and well-being. And it's the practice of doing things to enjoy the season you're in. So, like, during the fall, they drink hot tea and they make really yummy little pastries, and they always have, like, really soft blankets. And there's a little book that's on my Amazon list that I just need to, like, order. I don't know why I haven't ordered it yet, but it's called The Practice of Hygge. No, the little book of hygge.
Oh, that sounds amazing. I think you should definitely do it because I have heard nothing about hygge that makes me mad. It all sounds amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it does. And we're coming right up on winter, and we know winter's in Ohio. Wherever you live, I don't know where, maybe you live in Florida and winter's great there. But here in Ohio, it snows, and then the snow melts, and then it gets muddy. And then it snows, and it melts, and it gets muddy.
I hate the mud. I love the snow. Hate the mud.
Yeah. And so I often need reminders. Last winter, I tried doing more things that made me enjoy winter. So, like, I went ice skating with my brother one day. I tried snowboarding. Oh, that was a total fail. That is where I should have been wearing a helmet. But letting that go. It's a story for another day.
It's true. I mean, honestly, I think if we've learned anything this episode, or the last one even, it's that Alma is the adventurous one. Crystal is the not adventurous one.
Crystal's the one that wants to stay alive. I don't think it's not that you're not adventurous.
I prioritize staying alive. That's what it is.
In the past week, we've also learned that I love roller coasters, and you do not.
No. Do you know why?
Why?
Because when I was little, we went to the fair, and they put me on one of those little kid roller coasters. They look super calm and tame.
Yes.
I remember screaming in terror, and my mom and dad standing there waving at me because they thought I was screaming in laughter. They couldn't tell the difference, I mean, like, how do you tell? You can't. And they're just, like, waving at me like, oh, hi, Crystal. Okay. Yeah, no. Put that together with a fear of heights.
Yeah.
Peace out, roller coasters.
I think I was telling her a while ago, like, we should go to Chicago sometime and go to Navy Pier to that giant Ferris wheel. And she was like, what? No.
I will gladly go with you, and, like, I will stand there and hold your stuff. That's what I'll do.
I don't even remember how we started. Oh, I was talking about snowboarding. Yeah, that's how we got here.
Kind of derailed.
Yeah, no, that's funny. I'll get you to do something with me that you wouldn't have done.
I like sledding.
I love sledding.
I like putting the carrot in the nose of a snowman. That's adventurous, because you never know. If you know it. Okay, not far enough, it's just going to fall right out. Push it too far, and you just pushed out the back of his head.
What does Olaf say? Oh, I've been impaled.
Oh, yeah, he does say that.
I don't have a skull or bones.
Do you want to build a snowman?
Yes, because hygge. I want to... So, yeah, getting back to hygge. It's basically the practice of enjoying the season you're in. So, like, during winter, putting puzzles together. Yes. I'm claiming, like, that fireplace YouTube video as part of hygge because it makes me extremely happy and cozy.
Yes, 100%. So, I have a great plan now. I am going to have the whole fireplace thing going. I'm going to be doing my puzzle. And I'm going to be having my new favorite drink, which is matcha.
Yes, and I'll make cinnamon tea. I have Harney & Sons has a cinnamon tea flavor that is the best thing in the world.
I think matcha is better.
You do you, Crystal. You do you, boo.
I do. I do it all the time.
I love matcha, actually. But right now I'm going through a cinnamon tea phase.
I'm still going through a matcha phase.
Yes.
That's okay.
It is. It's totally fine.
You can have your thing. I can have mine. It's all good.
Yep. So yeah. Hygge. It's a fun word to say.
It's very fun.
Yeah. And maybe once I get my little book of hygge, I can review it for you guys and let you know if it's worth buying.
Yeah, we'll add it too. So, if you follow us on Instagram, you'll see that we have a books highlight, and we have some books that we recommend. So if Alma gets the book of hygge and we recommend it, you will be able to find it in our highlight, and you'll be able to see exactly what it looks like and find out if you should get it or not.
Yeah, and to be honest, I will probably talk about it at some point.
That's true.
Because so far I love hygge. I'm kind of obsessed with it.
Well, and also, we're going to talk about a lot of things. If we think it's going to help any of our listeners, we will be talking about it.
Yes, I agree, because I want to actually enjoy every season. Winter can be harder to enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to, do things that make me enjoy it. And, next weekend, I think my sister and I are going to go do a corn maze at one of our local little, farms that does, pumpkin picking and stuff. Because it's kind of become our little, tradition. We do a corn maze together every year in the fall.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And I think hygge, the whole practice of hygge, could really be kind of life-altering for some people.
I firmly believe so, yes.
Taking the time to celebrate the season we're in small ways, that could have so many wonderful effects on our mental health.
Yeah. Doing something, having little, bucket lists for each season, and doing things that make us happy during the season we're in. And then we look forward to it all year, ooh, next fall we're going to do another corn maze.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
And then during the winter, we're going to go sledding. I will say, I may be decently adventurous, but I will never again go snowboarding. I sustained so many injuries that day.
I went skiing once, and that's not something I plan on doing again either.
Really? See, now I would go skiing. I skied as a child. It was a lot of fun. So I need to go skiing again. But it's totally different. You have two legs in skiing, and you're attached to one board when you're snowboarding.
Yeah, snowboarding does not sound like fun.
Yeah. My brother, he mastered it in literally 30 minutes. I mean, when I say mastered, he was going down the slope without falling. And I was still falling every 2 feet.
I think going down the slope without falling is mastered.
Yeah.
I would say that.
He then proceeded to go up to the bigger slope and come down just fine. And I was sitting there, like, terrified the entire time, watching. I was like, I don't understand. How can one person have so much more balance than a person who is full-blooded related to him?
I 100% relate with that because, I mean, one, the people I went with some were snowboarding, some were skiing. I was attempting to ski. It was not a good situation. I was not related to any of them, so I couldn't, that wasn't a thing. But what was a thing is I sat at the bottom with my book, because I had the foresight to take a book along. I was smart.
Oh, that is smart.
And I waved at them when they came down the hill. Oh, hi! Have fun! Bye! It was pretty great.
Yeah.
A great book, too.
That's awesome. I love books.
Me too.
Anyways, this all started because of the joke about the fire and its perfect match. It's a great joke. We may have gotten off on several bunny trails there, but in the end, the practice of hygge and doing things that make you happy all help your mental health.
Yep.
When you're a healthy person, you are able to be a benefit to the people around you.
Mm-hmm.
And you're able to set good boundaries and form good relationships with people.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, you mentioned bunny trails, and we wouldn't be being authentic if we hadn't gone on some bunny trails at some point.
Yeah, honestly, they're amazing.
We love bunny trail conversations.
We do love bunny trails.
Yeah, like we said before, you can find quite a few things in our highlights on Instagram. We're working on building those up with lots of useful things for you. So if you don't already follow us on Instagram and Facebook, you can find us at The Friendship Bread. We're also on YouTube. What's our channel name? The Friendship Bread Podcast? Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. The Friendship Bread Podcast. And if you liked this episode, you can share it with your friends. That would help us out so much. And if you want to leave a review, you can do that over on Apple Podcast. So we want to thank you for joining us in this conversation, and we really hope you'll be back next week for another episode of the Friendship Bread Podcast.